Hello, I'm Jeremy. In this e-learning module, we will introduce what it takes to lead sustainable change. We'll start by looking at the context for change within further education. Change can come from the outside, where external factors give rise to it, or from the inside, where change is instigated from within your college or the finance function itself. We'll see that it matters less where the seed for change is planted, and more how you respond to that change as a finance leader that determines its success for you and your people, your finance function, and your college overall. We'll go on to review three core models that underpin leading sustainable change. Firstly, using a planned approach to change, and then paying attention to the critical factors that lead to it being sustained. And finally, managing the emotional response to change. This will help you cope better when change happens, establish successful change programs, and lead them from within finance. And then we'll finish by giving you an opportunity to reflect on your context for change, specifically your experience of it, your energy for leading it, and some time to think about how you can help others cope better when change happens. There's a lot of change in FE. There probably always has been, but it's the change we actually experience that often is the most difficult to accept. I'm going to describe change using three different lenses. Imagine this is your college. The first lens is the source of the change and whether it's driven externally or internally. Secondly, the impact of the change, whether it affects the organisation or whether it impacts on you personally. Clearly, many changes will impact on both the organisation and the CFO, and indeed, externally generated changes will create their own internal organisational changes. And thirdly, we can also analyse it by considering whether the cause is known or unknown. We call change that happens because of a known change in our environment reactive change. And then we have more complex situations that we will call adaptive change, where we need to prepare for some unknown and uncertain event in the future. The way we approach each of these can be very different. There are, of course, many examples of changes that you will encounter in your roles and colleges. Let's map the first two dimensions onto a grid. Now we can explore some examples of reactive change at the organisational and personal level. Take a few moments to look at these examples driven from within and outside the organisation that impact on you personally and have a wider organisational impact, such as the appointment of a new principal, being given some additional responsibilities, or your participation in a development opportunity. The need to develop effective working relationships with new stakeholders, such as regulators or funders. Changes in organisational structure, the introduction of new systems and ways of working, possibly capital projects, and involvement in mergers or acquisitions. The final quadrant, changes initiating outside the college which have an organisational impact, tend to be the ones we focus on most. This is always going to be the case in organisations that are predominantly publicly funded and who are subject to a relatively high degree of regulation and public scrutiny. I'm sure you'll know lots of examples in this category, including new funding regimes such as apprenticeships, changes to the inspection framework, changes to the competitive environment such as the development of UTCs and free schools, and policy initiatives such as area review, or new curriculum initiatives such as the proposal for T-levels. To some extent, all these changes are reactive. Adaptive change can be much more difficult to define and prepare for. It often emerges from a high degree of uncertainty about the future and requires long-term thinking that can be missing from the planning and implementation of reactive change. So, looking to the future and thinking about what might impact the College of 2025 and beyond. Examples of adaptive change may be the longer-term impact of an event such as Brexit, or perhaps the impact of future digitisation in education, including the use of artificial intelligence. Let's now turn to some core concepts that help you lead sustainable change. Firstly, taking a planned approach to change. I'm going to read from this book. There is nothing more difficult to carry out, nor more doubtful of success, nor more dangerous to handle than to initiate a new order of things. For the reformer has enemies in all who profit by the old order, and only lukewarm defenders in all who would profit by the new order. The lukewarmness arises partly from fear of their adversaries, who have the law and tradition in their favour, and partly from the incredibility of mankind, who do not truly believe in anything new until they have had actual experience of it. Those words were written in 1516 by political philosopher Niccolo Machiavelli, based on empirical evidence of power and politics in the 16th century Europe. In relation to making change stick, they remain as true today as they ever were. Many approaches to effecting sustainable change have come and gone, from the courts of Renaissance Europe to the complex and dynamic workplaces of today. One such approach has endured, that of systems thinking. An organisation is thought of as a complex human system, where each systemic component operates individually to thrive and to survive. But each component also operates interdependently with the other components so that they produce more together than they could individually. Here we show a model of an organisation viewed in this way, with strategy, structure, business process, leadership, people, and culture all aligned around a core vision. The system behaves to survive and thrive within a wider system, the operating environment. Whether change is instigated externally or internally, the change will be initiated within one or more systemic element internally. This necessarily affects all the other elements. As such, change cannot be dealt with in isolation. For example, a structure change or a business process change will fail if the impact of the change is not considered widely enough. In other words, on the people and the culture. The planned approach to change can be thought of very simply. For each affected systemic element, you assess where the organisation is today, where it needs to get to, and hence draw up a plan to get from one place to another. Undertaking a force field analysis is one approach to planning change in this way. Force field analysis recognises there are forces that push you forward and forces that hold you back, so the current situation is held in some sort of equilibrium state. The idea is you assess the forces that are holding you in place and try to influence them to move things forward. This is a deceptively simple exercise that's best done in groups to get a broad range of perspectives. Let's take a look at an example. Suppose a structure change has been implemented and you have now realised the structure has impacted negatively on the team culture. First, you think of all the things that will help you achieve your goal. In this example, the strategy, the structure, and the prevailing positive team culture. There may be others. We call these driving forces. Then you think about all the things that could stop you achieving your goal. For example, the structure has reinforced working in silos. People's written objectives are lagging reality. There does not appear to be enough time to do everything that needs to be done. Again, there will be others. We call these restraining forces. It's important to prioritise the forces by agreeing which ones will have the biggest impact on achieving your goal, or not. You can score the current situation, say out of 10, and set a target to improve. You can then develop an action plan to strengthen your driving forces and to tackle your restraining forces, so you move forward to your desired state. Generally, more movement is gained by tackling the restraining forces first. When force field analysis is undertaken on each systemic element, the results can be plotted onto a radar chart to show at a glance where the largest gaps are. Addressing these gaps as part of your planning substantially improves the chances of making change sustainable. So the 3 learning points so far are as follows. Firstly, think of the college as a whole system, with each systemic element affecting all the others. Secondly, undertake a force field analysis on each systemic element regardless of the nature of the change. And thirdly, remove the barriers first before driving forward with the change. Now let's look at the critical success factors that make change stick. Let's make this really simple. In my experience, there are only 3 things you need to do if you want someone to change the way they are working. Firstly, be really clear what it is that you want them to change. Then, provide enough support for them to be able to take on the change. It's crucial here that you provide the support they need, not the support you think they need. And finally, ensure there are positive consequences for people taking on the change successfully, and crucially, negative consequences for those resisting it. You can now click on each of these 3 aspects to read more about them.